about what's happening in sports. So happy, so elated to have with me a really kick-ass dude. He is the executive producer of TYT Sports on the largest YouTube news show in the world. Ricky Strom is here to break down what exactly is happening in the NBA, in addition to baseball and other sectors of sports in our country. Ricky, welcome to Habs. Good to see you.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. First of all, how is quarantine treating you? It's been a while since we've talked.
I mean, I got married, so I guess it's cool. It's cool. It's chill. I mean, it's fine. Like the world is crumbling and we get to stay inside. So, I'm managing. How are you
You're
doing?
managing. I'm good, man. Healthy, safe, now in Miami. Big shout out. Pablo De La Hoya is actually watching right now, and he says, huge fan of your videos, TYT Ricky. Keep up the good work. Glad to have you
Thank
here,
you,
Rick. Let's
Pablo.
get to it. Congratulations on the nuptials, man. Sports, we know
Thank you.
that sports teams are boycotting, rightfully so, in the wake of the violence and racial injustices against people of color, mainly black men, at the hands of police brutality. Take us through what has recently developed and why this is so important. And more importantly, why is this an unprecedented time in sports as far as boycotting and the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, I think because in the past you had, for example, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who were influenced by the great sports sociologist Harry Edwards, who at times, they went back and forth with Dr. Martin Luther King, and this was at the '68 Mexico Games, but they still competed, right? And they still medaled. And when they were on the medal stand, Tommy Smith and John Carlos conducted their protests to try and bring awareness to this. The biggest thing is when athletes withdraw their labor and say we are not playing, that's when literally everything comes to a halt. You're not going to have Colin Kaepernick, for example, take a knee and then go play in a game. It's just very, very different. It's the strongest card and most powerful card that an athlete can play, because when you stop playing, you not only withdraw your labor, as I stated, but then for all these billionaire owners, and I could give example after example in a moment, but when they don't make money off the backs, especially a league that is predominantly black, that is literally the strongest move that you could make. I commend them for this. I think there was a little bit of confusion at first. I absolutely hated what Kendrick Perkins tweeted of ESPN, and he then deleted it because he knew right after sending it that it was really, really wrong and
Mm-hmm.
irrational. But he was like, "What's the plan? What's the plan?" I'm like, dude, you know the plan. Everybody knows what we're in it for. Anybody who anybody who could go into this and say, yeah, they weren't united. Bull. They're
Right.
absolutely united. And one other quick thing is that LeBron James walked out of a few meetings because he wasn't happy, excuse me, with where it was going and that it wasn't strong enough. They're going to not replay, they're going to continue the playoffs on Saturday. But to have not only the face of the league, but one of the most recognized, if not the most recognized athletes in the world, along with a Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo type, the global
Mm-hmm.
popularity that he has to say, yeah, you know what, I don't think we should continue. It shows where a lot of these athletes are coming from and how troubling this is that they continue to see their fellow man, woman, and I guess you could say child in America continue to be disenfranchised, accosted, and murdered at the hands of police, and they want change.
They want change 100%. Today, I think it was ESPN reported that some of the coaches in the games, I'm sorry, in the teams that were in the bubble that were supposed to play were aware. They were aware that this was going to happen, that they were not going to play. Is this true? Are you hearing those reports as well?
Can you be a little bit more specific so I understand your question? Like are
Well,
they? Yeah, go ahead.
One of the anchors on ESPN was reporting that I think one of the coaches for the Bucks had received a text message from one of the players that they were planning to boycott that game and not play at all. And she couldn't. It was alleged. It was reported. There was nothing confirmed. Have you heard that in your research as well?
No, I think it caught everybody by surprise, and I think the biggest outlier was the Orlando Magic. Sort of felt like they were stranded is too strong of a word.
Mhm.
They were left on the court. And I'm not saying this as a negative. I'm in favor of player protest to the nth degree. The Orlando Magic were a little confused. There were other athletes that were confused. So I think it was something they had talked about for a few days, but no one knew until that very moment prior to game 5 that they were actually going to go forward with, I don't even like saying protest, with this labor strike. And when that
Mhm.
happened, that's when you had the trickle down effect of other NBA players saying, okay, forget about it. Naomi Osaka withdrawing from her tennis tournament. The NHL was very far behind. Major League Baseball had a weird hiccup, but overall, I think they're attempting to right a wrong. But the Milwaukee Bucks started this whole thing, and I commend them for it.
What are the ramifications, and what is the result of if, let's say, they didn't play these games? You know, we've said time and time again that athletes are the original influencers, and millions of people look to athletes to guide them in everyday life and inform decisions now more than ever politically. Had they not decided to go on and reschedule the games and play those games, what do you think the results would have been had that been the reality?
Um, I've wrestled with this, Jason. I've wrestled with it. I think that it would have been, and I'm not rooting for games to not be played. I think it's a great escape, but the problem is, I think it's Sean Doolittle, the Washington Nationals pitcher, who did not go to the White House when the Nationals were invited after they won their first ever World Series. He said sports is the reward of a functioning society. Because
Mhm.
it is that escape. It is that way to be like, all right, I'm just going to turn on the game, crack open a beer, and try not to think about all the crap that's going on and how Rome is burning. Um, what I think would have happened is I'm glad that they tried. But
Mhm.
what I think would have happened is uh, we had changes happen in the span of 2 days. So all the people that say keep politics out of sports or player protest doesn't work, it's not true. Um, the conclusion that they made prior to starting again tomorrow was after meetings and conferences, virtual conferences inside the bubble, was they're going to have a joint partnership, and there's going to be all these NBA arenas that are now open. So even though we have the suppression of this vote, and the Postmaster General Louis DeJoy is taking away mailboxes, and they are trying to get people not to vote, in this joint partnership, this coalition that was just formed as of an hour ago, I want to say, all these NBA arenas are now going to be turned into polling stations.
Nice.
If you have voted or if you have tried to vote and you've been in person, it takes hours, which obviously should not happen. It should be a national holiday, but it takes hours to vote. With polling stations opening, like think about any NBA arena, right? It holds on average maybe 19 to 22,000 people. These are big places. So this is a huge, huge thing to not suppress the vote, but encourage people to go out and vote. That was one of the main things that happened from this coalition that the players and the owners formed. However, I personally thought that and they're working towards it. Obviously, this is a work in progress. Rome wasn't built in a day, but they can also get more, because if they don't play, then it shows that they're not happy with where the current state of affairs and where the country is and how it is not serving them.
Why do you think these owners, though, for of these teams, like you said, these billionaire owners, why are we not seeing more support or more of a vocal activism from them? I mean, what's the percentage of African Americans that play in the league? Oh, close to 80% of the league is
Yeah, about
black, right?
75. Yeah, 75, 80.
So okay, so with that said, normally I would imagine, Rick, that business people want to stay profitable and want to continue to make money. And the old adage is a happy employee is one that's going to work. That a happy employee is going to work their ass off for you. Why aren't these team owners and these organizations not leaning in and listening to their players that are netting them billions of dollars? Why do you think?
Well, I don't want to defend billionaires. Okay, I'm not trying to defend billionaires. I will never defend billionaires. I think there should be a huge tax on billionaires because if you have someone that's worth $200 billion, does he really need all 200 of it? No. Why are the owners not doing more? I don't think they've had to. I don't think there's been enough pressure for them to have players not play. Like in 1961, the NBA All-Star game was about to not be played because number one, there was a blizzard, but more importantly, the players didn't want to go out there because they didn't have pensions and they didn't have team doctors that were there. I know it's insane to think about, but this was also in the 60s. So the players decided to not go out until their demands were met, and they were. I don't think billionaire owners have been as uncomfortable as black men in America have, and black women, and black children, and people of color, and minorities. This is an everyday struggle for people who are not white,
Hmm.
but yet a lot of the owners are. All of them, actually, aside from Michael Jordan, are. I mean, there's one glaring example, which is Zion Williamson, who, if he didn't get injured, could have potentially been Rookie of the Year. It's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. It's Ja Morant. And he saw when the pandemic hit and everyone had to be in quarantine and weren't working, that in New Orleans with the Pelicans, their owner, Gail Benson, did not try to help out their employees. So a 19-year-old rookie did. And he helped pay the salaries for 3 months.
Yeah.
Greed is part of it, but also just a sense of normalcy and comfort is another.
Right, right. You mentioned I was just in New Orleans, and you mentioned Benson. Benson's everywhere in Louisiana. It's unreal. With your opinions on the state of the NBA specifically right now, because we know games are being played in the bubble. The pandemic has definitely upended the culture of sports in America. How do we come back? What do you think? How do we come back how do you think we come back from what is happening now with civil unrest, racial violence? In juxtap in I'm sorry, conjunction with sports, and how does the NBA return to prominence in a time of quarantine, and what does the future look like, do you think?
Well, I think they're going to return to prominence because they've been the most progressive league in terms of change. David Stern allowed Donald Sterling to continue to be an owner of an NBA franchise, even though his racism was well documented. He was coined the Donald Trump of the West.
Hmm.
Everyone knew it. There was housing discrimination. Everyone knew it. And yet David Stern didn't care. When Adam Silver became commissioner, he kicked him out immediately. He wanted to give a bigger voice to the players if they didn't have it already. So their voices have been amplified. They're going to be prominent because as of right now, the numbers say that the NFL is still the creme de la creme in this country. College football is also there as well because they cater to a lot, not only the country, but also it's prominent in the South.
Hmm.
So the NBA is going to take center stage once they come back. I still think if they withheld their labor a little bit further and demanded more change, they likely would have gotten it. But these are not problems that are just solved by going to the bargaining table and then you're given the stamp of approval and you start playing again. Like, is police reform going to happen overnight? No, of course not. The FBI at one point, I know we're getting deep here, but just give me a second. The
No, no,
FBI
go ahead.
at one point, I think it was 2018, there was a brilliant article in The Intercept where um, white nationalists infiltrated police precincts across the country. Is that solved overnight by
Right.
the NBA saying we need this? Is probably going to be a lifelong mission that we hope to accomplish. Obviously, I'm in favor of it. Tons of people are in favor of this. The disenfranchised are in favor of this. Um, I'm really curious to see what happens. I'm really curious to see on a minimal level if one player goes out there and he has the last name Blake on his jersey because the NBA wanted to put the messaging in a box by giving them like whatever it was 12 or 15 approved names or sayings on the back of their jerseys. The NBA is certainly number two when it comes to popularity.
Hmm.
And when they return on Saturday, they'll still be there. Everyone's going to watch. Everyone's going to be interested. But there's so much more work to be done. And whatever the players do, I support them 100%.
Millions are supporting the players 100% because, as you said, sports is NBA is number two in the country, but sports as a pastime is an escape, and we need escapes now more than ever, considering what we've all been traumatized by with COVID, with civil unrest,
But
with
let me ask you a question about that.
sure.
Do you believe that we should have these escapes from these problems? I think it's important that we take care of our mental health, and God knows I've had to take breaks from doing the show just to
Hmm.
reset or
Hmm.
being on the cesspool that Twitter is.
Right.
Um, but like, should sports be that escape in this current climate? I just don't think so. Do you?
I don't think, no, Ricky, that's a great question. Do I think sports should be an escape? Absolutely not. But here's the thing. Here's the beauty is that the players, as I said, the players, athletes and musicians, what does Drake say? They want to be us, we want to be them, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that they are LeBron, so many, countless men of color that are very prominent in every league have said, full stop, my platform, I am more than just shut up and dribble, Laura Ingram. I am more than you should be grateful you have a job, Jared Kushner. So I don't think I don't which like Jared really I don't think
I
there should be an escape at all. I do think we have to in order to get over it, you have to go through it, and you it's much like when we're talking. We had a young lady by the name Heather Gardner on an earlier broadcast talking about how entertainment you can no longer report news that's vapid and vacuous like the Kardashians, and no one cares anymore. And athletes are realizing I can no longer step